Let's move now to David Harris. He's with our Department of Natural Resources Agency.
Hi, yes. So I'm the manager of our data management platform. And on the technology side, that means that I'm a project manager and help design and implement the architecture for the components in our data platform. And then on the customer-facing side, I get to help folks define their use cases and figure out how they want to take advantage of that platform, support them on coming up to speed to incorporating the use of those tools into their practice. The Natural Resources Agency has 28 boards, commissions, and departments, and they're all about protecting the most beautiful stuff in California, our environment. So it's an easy mission to be passionate about. So we were talking about some of the challenges that we've seen in implementing data management programs, and so I wanted to talk about our approach to 3 of those. So the first question for development of a lot of data programs is to ask, how do we organize ourselves? And it's really clear to us that it needs to be a distributed approach, that data management has to happen at the program level first. There are a lot of kinds of systems that work really well in a consolidated format where there are consistent protocols that are long established and people pretty much need the same thing, and you can scale those up and have great economies. Email is a really good example. It's always the same technology at its base, right? But data management and analytics is pretty much the exact opposite of that. In order to do analytics, you're creating tailor-made solutions for each program. And you need the participation of the subject matter experts at the front lines of that organization. And not only do you not have established workflows and protocols in a really advanced program, you're going through a process of continuous refinement. And so when you start, that doesn't even exist necessarily yet. So it's really clear to us that the purpose of our platform is to enable that work on the front edge of the organization, and to not look at it as a core, but to enable the activity that's happening at the outside edge of the organization, and realizing when there's activity outside that edge, a lot of times it's because they're exchanging data or they are collaborating with another part of the edge. There are some things that we need to do at the center because there are some thematic consistencies in conservation management. You got to know where stuff is, and so we invested a lot in making our platform very geospatially smart. In supporting species and habitat, time series is really important, and so we have a shared interest in the platform being really robust in its capabilities around that. But for the most part, we're really focused on that growing front edge. The second challenge that I wanted to talk a little bit about is that there are so many different opportunities to engage different technologies to do data management. And it's really a challenge to figure out where we're going to get the talent, where we're going to get the experience in dealing with some of these technologies. And so one really powerful approach we've found to dealing with that is partnerships, and we've had some amazing partnerships, and I wanted to talk about a couple of those. So one big issue for California lately has been the drought, and so the 2 big components of making sure we've got sufficient water supply is what's the demand and what's the supply. And so the map that is displayed on this slide is a really wonderful data product that came out of a partnership between the statewide integrated water management program, DWR, and UC Davis. And what they did was they used hyperspectral satellite data to determine the wavelength signatures of different crops. They were able to determine the acreage of each of those crops, use models that showed how much water was consumed by each crop. Then, just to make the model a little bit better, they threw in some weather satellite information that showed how overcast it was and the temperature, so they could adjust that usage for daily weather. So they used Landsat for that hyperspectral, and they used GOES for the cloud cover. And so they were able to radically improve their understanding of how much water was going to be needed for agriculture every day. That's a picture right there. That area is the Delta, the California Delta. So that was a very sophisticated set of technology for that partnership to use, but as they collaborated, the DWR folks got more and more up to speed on it, and they've installed a satellite dish, and they're pulling down GOES data, and they can update the model every hour now. So another really amazing partnership is on the supply side. One of the challenges of California's water management is that 3/4 of our water supply is, if you want to go to the next slide, 3/4 of our water supply is in snowpack. And only 1/4 is in the infrastructure that we've built. So most of it's up the hill, right? And so it's really important to estimate how much snowpack we've got up there. But a big problem with that is a full third of that snowpack is above 10,000 feet, where we haven't been able to measure it. And so a partnership between Frank Gerke and Thomas Painter. Frank is with DWR Snow Survey, and Thomas is with JPL. They flew a plane over a test area in the Tuolumne Basin, which is over Hetch Hetchy, that's the watershed above Hetch Hetchy. And LiDAR is a pretty amazing technology. They can shoot a cloud of laser dots across the landscape and detect from the bounce back within 10 centimeters the location of millions of points and develop an elevation model. So they flew that during the summer to determine where the ground was, and then they were able to fly as often as weekly during the beginning of the year through into the summer. And we went to having very, very little information about that area to being able to estimate with incredible precision exactly how much water is there. This is kind of an amazing diagram. What they did was they took a model of the water content of snow, and they basically stacked the water up on the landscape there. So that the darker blue areas are equivalent, larger depth of water, and the lighter ones are shallower. And so now they can use that information to estimate flows, and they use that to manage releases from the State Water Project dams. So that's an example of the power of these partnerships. And it's allowed implementation of solutions that would have been very difficult to come up with from scratch ourselves. The third major question that I wanted to talk about, that's kind of a challenge when we're working out how to do a data management program, is how to keep it relevant. The first wave of open data portals haven't necessarily gotten fantastic reviews. The CIO for Long Beach said that he kind of sees them as not useful and kind of a checkbox thing. And it's very difficult to get support for the ongoing maintenance of data sets when that's how people perceive them. And so the question is, how do we make those projects sustainable so that they're useful and used? And the answer for us is to have them be program-centric, to make sure that we're beginning with adding value for all the programs within Natural Resources Agency, and we know that if we're able to deliver on that, we'll have great data products to share with the public. Because transparency is important, but we know our highest ROI is going to be serving our programs, and so that's where we're focusing. So one technique we've used to do that is that as we're going through and introducing programs to our platform, we've created a template that they can figure out at the beginning of the project where they can document what they think are their most strategic questions. So the template is one question per template. It's got a title, their current understanding of the question, the value of answering that question, what their current understanding of the information presentation would look like, the information product would be, and then what data would be required to do that. And by starting with that value delivery at the beginning and working toward that with all the subsequent activity, we know we're going to hit value at the end, and it will have relevance. That template's been really well received. If anybody would like a copy, I'm happy to share it with you.
Thank you, David.